Pakistan has quite a number of issues in education, like in many other areas and like many other countries. Some of our issues, for example, have been a very high dropout rate among students. Another large issue is the female literacy rate and the disparity between male and female in education. Our overall literacy rate is close to 50%, and the female literacy rate is 35 to 40%. For my province, where I come from, the overall literacy rate is 30%, and the female literacy rate is less than 20%. Which means that the overall literacy rate is low, which obviously indicates that the education system is not universal in Pakistan. It is not able to, it is not strong enough. And at the same time, because of various kind of conflicts and because of so much internally displaced population, there's a huge number of out of school children and as well as internally displaced people. According to a recent report generated by UNESCO in fact just this month, February 2012, there are more than 5.1 million out of school children in Pakistan, which makes Pakistan the second largest country in the world with that kind of number, with those kind of numbers of out of school children.
Thank you so much. I'm sure the audience will be able to discuss the issues further. As we go on, Diana?
Yes, in Moldova, our hottest issue right now is the new law on education, also called Code on Education, which has not yet been officially adopted. Though, because we had some political instability, we were almost 2 years without a president, and obviously nothing moved. But the bottom-up process worked quite well, and those standards that were foreseen by the new law, but not yet enacted legally, started to be applied. So the transition is in place. And this implementation of the new law, because it will be passed ultimately, will have to reduce possibly the drawbacks of the first law on education adopted in 1995. Since we became independent in 1991, this was one of the first variants. What we will try to do now would be to help school decentralization, because school autonomy is quite reduced in Moldova. Secondly, this law, the implementation of this law, will possibly diminish the differences between urban and rural areas, because obviously in some rural areas there are fewer specialists and willing to go, and that's why there is the situation that not all positions available are taken by the younger specialists who are expected to go there and make the difference. Another aspect that we still have to work on is inclusive education, because traditionally it didn't exist, and now it is quite difficult to not only to support this principle of inclusive education and make some children with special educational needs be part of regular schools, but the work should be made with parents of children that are considered, let's say, regular, normal children, because the resistance to a certain extent comes from this segment of the society too. In addition to this, building, let's say, educating a harmonious, creative personality rather than a personality who is able to think critically only, because this was the objective in 1995. So actually this transition from one system rather distant from another one, and the implementation of this new law, these would be the greatest challenges in the next years in Moldova.
Thank you very much. Eka, what is the situation in Georgia?
In Georgia, the greatest challenge now the government is seeing in the education system is teacher, professional development, and career advancement. So what does it mean? So Georgia is a former Soviet Union country. So after it declared the independence from 1991, so it meant that everything was changed, the ideology, mindset, and everything. So and the huge transformation took place in education system. So new curriculum was created, textbooks were absolutely changed, and everything. But on the document level, so the curriculum and the professional development, teacher professional standards, everything is created. So now we have the teachers who are the main players to have those documents to make happen in the classroom, right? So, the government just decided to take care of the teachers' professional development and to make the to create some kind of starting point to establish teacher certification exam. So that means that teachers, all the teachers, no matter that they have diplomas from the accredited universities, have to pass the exam and take teacher status. So it is kind of embarrassing for teachers. So because they have the teacher status certified from and diploma certified from the accredited universities or the government, but still they have to take this exam and regain the status again. This somehow means that the government is discriminating the diploma that is just certified by the government itself. And the second odd part of this is that according to this the professional development career scheme for teachers, so we at first teacher gains the status of teacher, and then she has just to perform the specified works and everything to gain another status. This is first category of teacher, but the teacher needs 8 years to get this another status, and then again 8 more years to gain the highest category of teachers. So that means that the country will not have the highest category teacher during 16 years. So this is kind of absurd. On the other side, the teacher's profession is very undesirable in Georgia. So because of the low salaries, and the salaries are below the average salary in Georgia, so no one wants, the new generation doesn't want to go to the profession. This salary and plus all the processes that they have just to again regain the status and everything. So right now, the teacher certification process begins in 2010, and during these 2 years, we had only 14% of teachers who has this teacher status. And the law says that until 2015, all the teachers should have the status, teacher status, to have the right to work at school. So that means that during these 2 years, we need 86% of teachers to pass this exam. This is absolutely incredible. So that means that country is in a really serious deficit of teachers. It will be in 2015, and this is a really challenging situation, and this is really just all the experts and all the system is working on this just to make it somehow happen in 2015. So this is our challenge.
Very dynamic. Okay, thank you. What is the situation in Jordan?
So the situation, the big challenge in Jordan is, we have one word, it's the unemployment. So unemployment in Jordan, and especially in the region, one of the biggest challenges that they faced recently. So for this, and the country want to solve this issue, the country will invest for the next 10 years in the 3 main sectors. And in these sectors, they need a lot of workers. And the first one is the renewable energy, and the second one is the water sector, and the third one is the transportation. So in these 3 sectors, the country wants to invest more in these 3 main sectors, because we have a lot of high unemployment, and especially among the women. We have the percentage of unemployment among women is 14%, which means the lowest percentage in the whole region, which makes it an issue. So So this, so yeah. So what's happening in Jordan that we have a high percentage of educated persons, educated Jordanian, and those educated Jordanian, they travel outside the country, whether in the Gulf countries because they have a lot of opportunities, or to the Europe or USA. While we have in Jordan the low skilled people who came from the neighboring countries, those from the Egypt or from Iraq, and they accept the low skilled worker jobs. So this brings the issue to invest more in this issue. So why Jordan invest in those main three sectors? Because Jordan want to invest more in the vocational training education, and because no one want to go to these sectors, they said no, we will invest more in the water because Jordan suffers from water issue and transportation. We have a lot of weak infrastructure, and the renewable energy. We have a lot to do with the renewable energy, and these jobs need a lot of workers. So now Jordan are going to invest to improve and to have a lot of projects to encourage more Jordanian, both women and female, to engage more in the technical vocational education training. And this is really a big impact on the unemployment.
Okay, thank you. Wishnoe?
Okay. For Indonesians, I think conditions or situation in Indonesia is quite different with my colleagues here. We don't have problems. We live happily ever after. But we have challenges. Why? Because Indonesia is such a big country, the fourth largest country in the world. It's not one chunk of island, but it's separated with seas and everything. So the most problematic part is access. It's the uniformity of the standard. It is quite known that if you have the kind of a geographical situation, those who live in big city will get better access rather than those in the remote areas. And that's also happened a long time ago, and since the Suharto era. And finally, after 1998, we have the Reformation, and all of those things came before. Why is the Reformation important? Because before 1998, the country allocated only small number for education in their budgets, in their commission budgets. But right now it's 20%, so it makes a big difference. So what happened is we are improving. Yeah, we are in the process of improving, including the teachers. We are standardizing our teachers. A lot of senior teachers or teachers who used to be with the old system start protesting because we have different standards and everything. The second part is about getting access to the information. Now we are getting more and more access to the people in the remote countries. Sorry, the remote cities and places because of the information technology. We love technology, we love information system, we love Facebook, so we use that more to improve that. And since the Indonesian education director at the government, we are very centralized. We're not like in the US, you have like federal and state. Everything is nationally controlled. So those things will create a lot of, well, you can call that a bit of problem. But the local education ministries will have access to the central ministry. So we are now connecting through the information technology. So the issue of teachers, I think it's the same with ECA. It's not what you call it, a promising, or not many people want to be teachers because the pay is not really good compared with other professions. But now it's getting more and more appreciated. The government tries to pay them more. If they have certain standards, they will give them more incentive. But now it's becoming more sexier, becoming a teacher. And becoming a teacher is also more prestigious more and more. And after the 1998, the system of education has been left just like the US, or any other country which is very, very in a democratic country. Some of the schools or education institutions is a public, owned by the government, and some of them leave to the market. So there are some private, some publics. They are competing. Used to be a long time ago, the public is the best. The private is the second one, because all the money goes to the public, from the government. But now, it's competing. So, if you want to go to the private, it's same quality with the public. Even in some cases, private schools are better than the public schools. So, it goes that way. I mean, it's all the dynamic. It goes the right direction, in my opinion at least. And it's, and people right now start to thinking about more of that. In terms of international, we really focus on getting more international accreditation, especially from the Western standard. All of those, so you go to Indonesia, you will see schools with Cambridge, IB, International Baccalaureate. Or if you go to university, you have like all of the standard like US and then ISO. Like my university, we're using ISO for our standard. That's all about it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your introductions. Now, the design of this panel was meant in such a way that we would cover a couple more topics which could be interesting because of the different contrasts that these countries and these speakers provide in comparison to the United States. Not all of them will answer to every question. And we will leave ample time towards the end for your questions. However, if you have a burning issue that you would like to follow up on, upon hearing the interesting answers that my panelists will provide, I'm sure I'll find a way to squeeze the question in. Okay. Now, we know that religion plays different roles in education systems in different parts of the world. And I would like to ask Hina and Wishnoe. Hina, could you tell me what is the role of religion in education in Pakistan?
I think in that whole region, in the whole South Asian subcontinent region, religion has historically played a very important role in education. It has been used many times to unite and divide people. For example, when the British came to colonize the region, the number of Catholic schools in the area and the Methodist schools in the area really increased. Before that, there were only Islamic seminaries, but later on there were an equal number of Catholic schools and other Christian schools in the area, mostly to give education, but also to sort of silence and sort of suppress people's desire to separate from the British colony. Because when you unite people on religion, they sort of are okay to give up on their freedom sometimes, on their ethnicity, or whatever other issues that they believe in. Later on, after that, in Pakistan today, the situation really hasn't changed much. And religion has been used to unite and divide people through education in various parts. For example, in Pakistan, if you're studying in a school, for a long time, madrasas have been a sort of a big part of the debate in the global world. But in Pakistan, there are only 4% of education institutions are madrasas. The 96% of the schools are the schools that are run by the government, teaching the curriculum that the state wants the students to study. So in Pakistan, if you go to a regular school, you would still be studying a lot and reading a lot about religion and the kind of the religion that state wants you to learn about, for example. So when I was in school in Pakistan, I wasn't in a madrasa, but I had a religious study class, which was called the Islamiyat class. But at the same time, my English book started in the name of God and ended in the name of God. My social studies book would start in the name of God and end in the name of God. But now the question is which God it is that you want to start and end with, and then even if you follow a certain God, which type of ideology within that God or within that religion you believe in that you want to follow. So for example, I came from a half Sunni and half Shia Muslim background. And it was a big dilemma for me because my curriculum was teaching me about the Sunni Islam. My family was teaching me about the Shia Islam. I wanted to go to school and be able to read about both Islams, but I couldn't read about both Islams. So even within Islam, there was within the religion that was being taught in school, within the Islamic religion that was being taught at school, there was this huge dilemma of religion constantly at sort of a conflict and collision with with the education system, and it being really used sometimes to promote a certain kind of ideology. I was working on a report last year along with some colleagues in the British Council, and it was called Education Fanning Hate. So really, what kind of education was your social studies book, for example, giving? Was it calling all Hindus your enemies? Was it calling all Jews your enemies, and how you should really work together as united Muslim Ummah to support the Palestinians? Or was it calling all the Christians in your country enemies and ready to really start a crusade or a war against you? So religion was really used by the state, by different rulers, and even by global powers in many parts, by the US, and I can probably talk more about it later, to exploit people's sentiments and to unite and divide them.
Thank you so much.
I have
Is
a
that
burning
burning?
question. Well, I have done a lot of reading, not necessarily in journals, but in Wall Street Journal or New York Times or something like that. And I've read that in the madrasa schools, not just in Pakistan, but in madrasas all through the Islamic world, that anyone that's not Islamic is considered an infidel. Now, I'm just going to assume that that's true, and I'm wondering if in the state schools that they also teach that if you're not Islamic, that you're an infidel.
It was in the Urdu book, which is a national language, and it said something like it had question and answer was a part of the curriculum. It said, the question said, who are you? It said, I am a Muslim. The answer was, I am a Muslim. What religion do you follow? I follow Islam. But then there were also students who were Christians in my class. And although they didn't really have to read Islamic studies, they would have to read Urdu, which would still ask them, hello, who are you? What is your religion? So that is a part of the curriculum. So, and on top of that, the curriculum really glorified Muslim warriors. A lot of the warriors that came from Arab to this region, in a lot of cases, to really take the gold that was there in the Hindu temples. And these warriors were glorified. And anyone who was not a Muslim in history was presented or showed as the enemy. So yes, indirectly it was done. Yeah.
Okay, but I have a feeling that this situation might not be different across all Muslim countries. So, Wishnoe, could you tell us what is, or countries which have a predominantly Muslim population, what is the situation in Indonesia?
Okay, before I start with the education, just want to let you know that Indonesia is not an Islamic country. It's not Muslim country. No, it's not. We are a country. And then we have 5 pillars. The first pillar is to believe in God. So we respect 5 different religions, including Christian, Catholic, Hindu, Buddha. And then the Buddha here includes also Taoism, Zen, all of those denominations. Christians also with all those denominations. Roman Catholic and Islam. Islam is considered as the majority because most of them say that I'm a Muslim, like me, I was Muslim. So when you go to a school or public school, then there will be in the curriculum the religion. You have to learn about religion, but it doesn't have to be a certain religion. That means that whatever your religion is, you have to learn about it. So if you're Christian, you come into public school, you learn Christians. If you're Islam, you're public school, there will be different sets of books and different sets of teachers who masters the subject. So when there is a religion classes, in my experience, those who are Christians or who have different religion, they move to another class to have another classes for religion. The other class have different religion. So it's quite liberal, it's quite equal. And I have a bit looking at my previous life, like when I was in elementary school, some of my time I was in Catholic school. I'm a Muslim. So when I was in schools, I did in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And back home, I pray all over and stuff like that. It doesn't matter for me. My undergrad is also a Jesuit school. They respect me equally. If they go to church, they go to church, and you don't have to go to church. You stay here, no problem. So when they have their religion curriculums, religion classes, I don't have to follow that. I go to the ethic class with the similar credits. Yeah, so that's what happens. So when you come to school, to elementary school, of course, the class will ask you to pray to God. But you pray your own belief. And also the books, except the religious book about religion, it doesn't have anything to do with religion. So science is pure science, math is pure math, all of the social sciences, you learn about history, it's history. They don't say that this is the leader of an Islamic popular characters or something. It's just neutral. But when you go to religion, then it will be very special. So that's what happened until now. And of course, schools are different. Schools running by church, schools running by Islamic organization, madrasa, it exists. Of course, if you come there, you have the consequences like me. I'm a Muslim, come to a school, a Catholic school, of course I have to learn about our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, that is come and all that stuff, right? Hail Mary, I know it, I've been there. So I memorize all of those things still, I can do that. But that's the consequences. If you take the consequences, you just do that. I mean, it's all about the rituals. But like home, you have your own religion. So that's all about it.
Okay, thank you so much. So two very different perspectives. Thank you. Let me now switch to some of the other topics. I understand that we have a few people here in the audience who are particularly interested in early childhood education. Diana, could you tell us how is the early childhood education in Moldova funded, and how is it run?
Yes, sure. I think that it would be useful to mention that the obligatory schooling age is the age of 7 in Moldova. Before it was 6, but then they made the change to 7 because they made some research and they found out that not all children are ready to go to school at that age. However, if children are ready, of course it depends on the family. If the family works more with children, and we know all this, then a special commission made of some doctors, psychologists, educators will assess the child, and if the child is able to attend school, this can happen at the age of 5 too. These cases are rare, but let's say at the age of 6, quite many children go, so nobody prohibits this. As for preschool age, in Moldova it's used the Russian system, or let's say the theories that divide let's say developmental psychology probably, which divide the age as follows. So until the age of 1, it's the baby. From the age of 1 to 3, this is early age, and from the age of 3 to 7, this is preschool age, which is subdivided in its turn into small preschool age, medium preschool age, and big preschool age. According to the law, from the age of 5 to 7, children should have access to education provided by the state. This can happen in 3 ways. This can happen in the kindergarten itself, when the groups of big preschool age children will start having special classes, group activities, preparing them to go to school. This can happen within a school which has this preparatory step for children, so it's up to the parents and up to the possibilities offered by the urban or rural centers where they are. And also, if there are some rural centers where there are really few people, then some community centers will assume this task of preparing children from 5 to 7 for successfully moving from kindergarten and being prepared to school. However, the Ministry of Education and also the UNICEF, with some common efforts, they elaborated a number of standards for the ages from 0 to 7, telling what should be the psychological, physiological, and educational parameters for each age. And that's why usually when children go to kindergarten, which is age of 3 in Moldova, because from 1 to 3 women have a paid leave, they start having some activities that try to help children fit this standard, so that when children go to school, they are really prepared to to work there, to insert into the larger mass, so that the homogeneity of their knowledge makes it possible to progress hand in hand with all other children. So before the age of 5, children have different activities divided into 5 main curricular areas. The first would be language and communication, and this is a very important curricular area because based on this, after the age of 5, they will develop their reading and writing skills. Then it is science, art, physical training, and music. The same happens after the age of 5, but of course at a more complex level, and as I already mentioned, the reading and writing skills are focused on more. However, this happens to children who attend a kindergarten. If parents decide to educate their children by themselves, then they also try to rally their individual efforts to the standards elaborated by the ministry. However, this is not obligatory. Since the majority of kindergartens are, let's say, state kindergartens and very few private ones, the majority of children have this for free, or let's say for usual fee paid to public kindergartens. Though the private kindergartens, they are more expensive, they work with a fewer amount of children, but they also try to prepare the children for taking into consideration the same standards elaborated by the ministry.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I think we have around 25 minutes to 2. And although we have a number of topics prepared, I would just like to maybe focus quickly on the 2 countries we haven't had the chance to ask specific questions to before we turn the floor to the audience. We're lucky enough to have several technology experts here in the room, and even more lucky to have one of them here at the panel. Eka, could you tell us something about the use of technology in Georgia?
Yeah, this is my favorite. So Georgia began this technology in education, this project, in 2005, and we really begin from the very beginning. So schools, it was school computerization program, and so there were just 4 different focuses: to equip school with the computers, to build internet infrastructure, to build digital learning content, and teacher professional development, of course, to give them some kind of skills to be prepared to integrate technology in the classroom. So it was really starting point because schools did not have any technology at all, and there was no internet besides the big cities in Georgia. Right now we are in the process so that all the schools are equipped. The internet we have built throughout the Georgia through this school computerization program. So now all the places, all the villages are, so they are building internet infrastructure. And right now, and we are just conducting some trainings for the teachers to equip them with skills, technology skills, and also competencies how to integrate this technology in the learning process, not only just technical skills. However, I want just now to speak about my favorite project. This is just one-to-one e-learning for first graders. So in 2011, we began the program, one-to-one e-learning. All of the first graders were equipped with the netbooks, Intel-powered netbooks, that is powered with the special classroom management system in it. And all the teachers who teach in the first grade, so they also get these netbooks. Right now, so I should mention that it was just before election, so you can understand why it was. However, and there was just lots of skepticism regarding to this process, because why first graders? Why not third graders? So there are not lots of countries who give this technology in the first grade. So the publicly announced, declared statement about it was that the children are those children are digital natives, right? So we want to create the native environment for them. But it turned out really to become a really great project because we can see that it changed teacher and student relationship. So now we have the students, first graders, who are really far more better in technology than teachers. So teachers really learn from their students. So this is kind of from the teacher from the student and student from the teacher, yeah. And also because these students, so these are personal computers, they are belonging, so they can take it at home. And so at home, for many of those children, it was, and many families, it was really first piece of technology in their houses, so in the remote villages. So it turned out that with this project, we raise the digital literacy in the population because parents are really interested how to use it and everything. So it turned out to be really good for the whole population, not only first graders. And we did some research, and we really turned out, it really just proved that learning outcomes are better in the first grade. And if you can see these first graders, so they are having this magic toy in their hands, and so they are prepared to do everything in the world just to please their teacher and to do everything just to use this technology in the classroom. And also it has one more benefit because we had, so from 2006 we have this teacher training program, and we are asking teachers to take these technology trainings and to integrate in it. And lots of teachers just attended those trainings. However, the motivation mostly was just to get the certificate from this training and to say that, you know, I just have this technology trainings. But right now, those teachers who are in a middle school, for example, they know that in several years, these students who are just using technology in their everyday classroom, they will go to their classroom in several years. So they really have now motivation to use more of technology and to get all those trainings and everything and all these skills to be prepared for those children who will be in several years in their classroom. So this is my favorite project.
Quite an interesting